So the other day, I felt like making a tier list maker, and since I started a YouTube channel, I thought I should make one on a series of unfortunate events. Disclaimer, by the way, I do not own this. I do not own this tier maker. I just found, but sorry, I skipped ahead of what I was going to say. I do not own this tier list. I found it on Tier Maker, and it is by this guy, I'm pretty sure, Impendro. So thank you to him. And so also, this is not just the books. This counts the show. So here we go. Let's start out with The Miserable Mill. The Miserable Mill is the most boring book in this series. I feel like nothing happens in it. I mean, there are some big hints, but it is so boring in my opinion. I mean, all the Baudelaires really do is just kind of work, and that's it. I mean, there is that whole hypnosis thing, but like I feel like you could cut it out and you still have it. I guess the scene's kind of interesting with the entire like, oh, Klaus is going to like chainsaw this dude or something. But again, it's not super interesting. How about we do The Bad Beginning? The Bad Beginning it's okay. I mean, it's a good beginning to the series. It's called Bad Beginning. But I mean, jokes aside, it's a pretty good beginning to the series. I do feel like it's kind of like trying to rush things up. Like, not rush. Sorry, I'm really bad at talking. It's trying to hurry things up and get the story over with so they can actually get to the whole underlying plot. I feel it's just kind of like, oh, do this, work, blah, 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 and you'll do whatever you'd like. I don't know. I feel like it's a good book, but I feel like they're trying to get through things too quick. And so that's why it's only at an okay. Next up, we have The Grim Grotto. I think the show makes a lot, like, really tense. It's a really, I think, interesting setting to take them underground, I feel. Well, not under... Well, I guess underwater is underground, right? Let me know in the comments. Do you consider underwater underground? But anyways, I think it's a really, like, solid book/episode. And I think the best part is probably when they get stuck, like, on probably the escape scene and when they have to escape Count I almost called him Olmar. I mean Olaf. And so next we have the Herretz Hospital. I cannot remember what it's called. Anyways, this one is the best, I feel. It is the most tense in the entire series, I feel, because it starts you off hitting the ground running, because it already just left from book 7/episode 7. And so they just escaped and are technically now considered criminals. And so it really hits the ground running. Like, oh, the Baudelaires now are criminals. And so they decide to stop at a gas station. They get hunted down by Count Olaf. Then they have to sneak aboard this VFD thing. And then they get to the hospital where, like, it's really tense. Like, the filing cabinet scene, OMG, that scene is, like, the best. I love the scene with the filing cabinets because everything just crashes. And then another good thing about it is, the best thing about it is probably the escape scene when after they save Violet from like the brain surgery transplant, they decide to like, okay, so just to set up the scene, if you haven't read or watched the series, which, what are you doing here? They basically save Violet from getting her brain taken out, and so they have to escape from the hospital, and everyone's chasing them down and the hospital is burning. I can't remember how they do it in the books, if they do it differently, but the series does it really well, and it's super tense. Like, book 8 is the most tense in the series. And then, yeah, definitely recommend reading it. Next, let's do The Slippery Soap. The Slippery Soap is pretty good. I feel like it's just kind of like a game of cat and mouse with them up on the mountain, and then Violet and Klaus and Quigley get to the top, and then they have to go down, and then they have to get back up with Esme. I really think it's just like a big game of cat and mouse, because they're just kind of going back and forth of above the mountain and below the mountain. Also, Carmelita Spatz basically decides to become a murderer and dies in the penultimate pearl, so that's pretty cool, I guess. And then we have the Carnivorous Carnival. It is okay. I feel like if you could cut any book from this series, or you wanted to skip it, then you wouldn't lose a ton from the Carnivorous Carnival. These two are probably the most you could leave out, and you wouldn't get anything. Actually, I would count the Reptile Room in there, cause okay, so if you cut these three out of the series, you wouldn't get a ton of difference. Sure, there's an underlining thing, like underlining story, but I feel like you could cut these three out, and you wouldn't get a ton of a difference. Actually, in fact, I would maybe include the wide window in there, but I don't think so. And so, anyways, as you just saw, I put up the Reptile Room. The Reptile Room is a really fun one. I keep on saying feel so much. I feel like it's trying to be a really rehashment of the first book. But I mean, it really changes it with him being a nice person, like Montgomery. He's really nice, and I think the best part about it is definitely the murder mystery. That is the best part of how they killed it, because Count Olaf had to kill him, but how is the main question, and it works really well. And I personally really like that part to it. I mean, yeah, the murder mystery is probably one of the most creative parts of the series. And so moving on to the Vile Village, we got our first boring. The Vile Village, in my opinion, is the worst. But yeah, these two are the worst. The Vile Village is the most boring book in the series, in my opinion. I know a ton of people love it, but I find it so boring. I mean, I cannot handle the Vile Village. I mean, others may like it, but I just hate it so much. I feel like nothing. The book drags on. I don't know. Let me know in the comments which one is your least favorite. But personally, I hate the Vile Village and the Miserable Mill. Like, the Vile Village is just so bad, I feel. And so next we have the Wide Window. The Wide Window is pretty good. I know it's also an unpopular opinion like the Vile Village, but I like what happened to Aunt Josephine's story, and I feel like I like the show what they did better of her character than in the book, with her trying to push them off the boat and kill her. I really do not like that. It's not that I think that's dark or anything. It's just, I don't know. I feel like she would do it. She would about to push them off and then be like, hey, this is the wrong thing, and stop it and start to talk back to Count Olaf. But no, she doesn't kick them off in this show. But I think I like that one more, where she starts to defend herself and then she starts to get a little sidetracked and then Count Olaf pushes her off. I don't really like how the book does it, because I feel like they could have done a lot more of it. And then next we have the Earrat's Elevator. It's okay. A lot of them are going into the okay, which is surprising. I know. Actually, I'd put the Grim Grotto in great. It's really fun. But yeah, the Earrat's Elevator, in my opinion, is not very interesting. I mean, okay, so I feel like it's a fun plot, and I like what happens. But I mean, when you really start to break it down, it's not the most interesting storyline. I mean, they basically get into a rich apartment and then they go down the elevator and find them. I mean, they kind of just add things that don't need to happen. Except we do get introduced as Esme Squalor, who sounds like the most evil name ever. And I love them for that, because that's an evil name. But, I mean, she is a really good antagonist to them. But honestly, I feel like they did too much to the plot that didn't need to happen. I feel like the worst part was probably the part where they go to the salmon restaurant, because I mean, while it did give them a hint to go down the elevator, I felt like it should have been more puzzly than they had to solve puzzles to find out they had to go down there, than just, oh wow, please go down the elevator. So, next we have the Rats Academy. I can't remember what it's called. That one is the best. I think it is probably the funniest, and it's also, I think, the most where the people where they start to realize how bad their situation is starting to get. Because before that, they started to be at least a little positive, like they could do something better. But in this one, they just become like miserable. Like the miserable mill started to signify that it's starting to get like darker and grim. And then the Rats Academy, I can't remember if that's its name, really started to just like make it so they are starting to get miserable. And I mean, the orphan shack, the bullying, Carmelie Spats, it is like probably they're like, I feel like this is where the Baudelaires really get their hopes down some of the least. Because I mean, it's not a huge plot, but I mean, the plot of Count Olaf trying to take them with the triplets, sorry, is really depressing. I feel like he starts to get angrier in this book and starts to become more determined to get their fortune. And also, I think the joke, well, I don't know if it's really a joke, but I like the remember you will die motto. I think that's kind of funny dark joke that some people will get, but others like won't find super funny. And then next we have the penultimate pearl. Wow. Now, okay, I think it's a really like fun part, but I don't know. Okay. So I'm putting it in great, but I feel like there's something missing from it. I feel like there's one thing that they could change to it that would make it better, and so I really like them being stuck in the hotel. I feel like them actually deciding to go to the hotel is a really fun thing where it cuts off in like the Grim Grotto. But I really like that part where they actually decide to go to the hotel, and then the whole like judge court scene is really good, I think. And then the hotel burning down. Also, hashtag I feel like everyone in the hotel died when you think about it. Because I mean, Carmelie just. But when you think about it, the story about Carmelie Splatz is actually a lot darker than you think. Because she decided to leave her parents. And then she decided to join some random rich couple. And then she burned to death in the hotel. I mean, just saying. That's kind of dark. I mean, the series is dark, but not as dark as that. And finally, we have the ending. Now, a lot of people like this one, but honestly, this, to me, is garbage. This is not a satisfying ending. It is. They decided to, like, take the Baudelaires, put them on a deserted island, and it's not that that's a bad setting, it's just so boring. I mean, they try to give you stakes, but it doesn't happen. It's so unsatisfying as an ending. I mean, nothing happens. I mean, it's just them being like, oh, hi, we're on the island. Now it's time to worry. And then they get stuck there for a year with the baby. And honestly, I really do not like that. I think it's such a boring and unsatisfying ending to the entire thing. I mean, I know a lot of people like it, but I find it just such an unsatisfying and like meh ending. There's like, it doesn't deserve to go in okay, and it doesn't deserve to go in dismal, but it is not good. It is not good. But besides that, these are my picks. I have the I'm not going to call them by their full names. I'm just going to say the setting. Hospital, Underwater, Academy, and Hotel get great. And then in good, we have the Slippery Slope and the Wild Window. And okay, we have the Bad Beginning, the Carnivorous Carnival, the Reptile Room, and the Rat's Elevator. In boring, we have the Vile Village and the ending. And then in dismal, we have the Miserable Mill. Tell me in the comments if you prefer what is your favorite in the series and what is your dismal and what is your tier list. So, bye. Stuff.